Well, thank you so much for coming out here to Cleveland to perform and be part of this event tonight, Mr. Womack.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I am part of the event because I was born here before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was even in existence.
That's right, a long time, right?
So, it's just amazing how when I left here going back, I started playing guitar for Sam Cooke. It was real cold like it is now. And this is in December, I get in Los Angeles. And I had on all of my gear, gloves and everything. And it was cold. No, it was 80 degrees.
In L.A.,
and the sun was
right.
shining. And Sam said, it's like this just about, 8 months out of the year. And I ain't been back since. Nothing against Cleveland. But boy, that cold weather, I'm telling you.
Well, Bobby, we're really excited for the show tonight, too. And for those of you watching on the stream who may be wondering, we got started a few minutes late. You were downstairs doing an incredible sound check. Those in the audience probably heard it coming up here. I'm looking forward to the show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, too. And this is special because this is, and I tell everybody I'm from Los Angeles, because at the time I was living in Los Angeles. But I grew up in Cleveland, and I learned everything that I know from the gospel singers, such as the Caravans, the Blind Boys, the Soul Stirrers, and the list went on. And I was a little guy, learning from the pros. You know.
I wanted to start and actually ask you a little bit about the last record, the new record, The Bravest Man in the Universe, an incredible album. Got great reviews. People really respond to it. I love it. It's a really contemporary record, too, right?
Yeah, I just think it's a record that connects, When a lyric can say something, from a child, I always say, and my father used to always say, there will be wars, and there will be wars. And there was wars then, and he said, man will destroy himself. But the greatest man the bravest man to put down their arms first, to me, says it all.
For that album, you worked with Richard Russell and Damon Albarn.
Yeah.
And, Damon you had worked with in Gorillaz before when you appeared on the song Stylo.
Yeah, we did the tour. We did the tour together, the longest tour I'd ever been on. And
it was like 50 dates or something like that, right?
Oh man, I don't even want to count. I think he left half of me on that tour. So y'all get the other half. But it was great, and it was an experience for me because I had actually broke away from the business and say I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Or it's done with me. You can't. I got tired of falling in love and falling out of love, so you can't keep telling the same story over and over again. So I just says, let me break away.
Yeah.
And the thing that I wanted to break away and do was clean my act up, and that's something that everybody that I knew coming up in the day was into, and that was drugs, And it's a shame when I can look, after I've been straight for 15 years or more, can look and say, boy, look how much drugs, how much damage is done. Because you're normally curious, but you forget being curious and start to enjoy it, and it's made the worst out of the best, So I felt that if I could do anything, it was to stand here today and say, I don't know why, I guess I'm blessed, but I said it's from Janis Joplin to Sam Cooke to Marvin Gaye, all of these guys are just people I work with. And to say they're not here, you're looking at a new generation just wondering why you're still here. I don't know.
Right.
I'm just still here and glad that I have the energy and the want and need to perform,
Yeah. What amazed me about the album was that it has a very different sound, partially because of the electronics, the drum machine that, Richard Russell programmed, but at the same time, your voice is so front and center on it. Yeah. Was it sort of a different process for you than the albums you had made years ago?
No, I think backgrounds are backgrounds. What's being said up front as far as the lyric and the feel that you have in your voice controls everything else.
Yeah.
If people looking behind and see what's happening in the background, that means you ain't doing nothing in the front round. You know. And lyrics are very important. And what I found out, you know, I just lost a brother
Yeah.
a few days ago. And it's amazing, my baby brother, because he passed away in Africa. And I would just say, if it's one thing that you should never let nothing come between family. I mean, even much as great as the music is to be one place. He's on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, or vice versa. You know, that's what I learned from it. And music is a universal language, because I don't care what people are doing, they can come together over a good song.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then they'll fight after the show is over.
You know, maybe that's a good thing to kind of think back a little bit, you know, and think about growing up here in Cleveland. You mentioned your brother, and of course, one of 5 brothers. It's you, Cecil, Curtis, Friendly Jr., and Harry.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about growing up here and your father, Friendly Womack?
Yeah.
And what it
My
was like?
father was a real teacher. He taught us how to live right. He was very religious.
Yeah.
He didn't particularly like it at all when we thought about singing, you know, circular music. But at that time, I was looking at my mom, and I was a kid, you know, and I told her, I said, as soon as I get famous, I'm going to move you in the projects. She said, well, I hope you don't get famous too quick. You know, but that was the only thing that was, I could look up to. I said, there's no holes in the wall, rat can't get in, and you can't get in, and you can't get out. You know, so it was beautiful. But through the process of all of that, we come a long ways, and I got 2 brothers left outside of myself, and I've been very ill too, which I hadn't been sick. And it was told a lot, don't talk about it because you don't get promoted. I say, hey, these people got to know that I'm real. You know, it's nice for people to say, man, you haven't changed not once. You look the same way you did 30 years ago. I say, come a little closer. You know. But tonight is a special night, only because this is home. Yeah. And this is where I've been wanting to be for so long. So I thank you guys.
Can you tell us a little bit when your dad found out that you and your brothers were singing, kind of copying some of the work he was doing, singing with his friends, gospel? He really encouraged you and your brothers to pick up and start singing a lot, right?
Yeah. My father cut hair on the weekends to make ends meet. And my mom used to, every Wednesday, say, she would make all of these pastries and different things just for the group to eat. And they never left nothing. She would always say, if they leave anything, you guys can have it. But they never let that, so we started marking them. Right. Every time they left, you know, there was one named Harold, and he was drunk every time he came to rehearsal. You know, and we became serious about singing, and my father happened to walk back because he forgot something in his toolkit. And he walked back, and then we were marking his group, the Voices of Love.
Right. And you and your brothers were kind of marking them singing?
We were marking them to a T. To each member of the group, everybody had their share. You know, so he took it very serious. And I often thought during the interviews, I said, boy, I always talk about Sam Cooke and other people that inspired me. I said, maybe because Sam already happened. But I said, my father was the one that first planted the seed, you know. And I today think it's a great thrill to be able to go out and touch people with songs that you've experienced and things you've sung, and touch them in a way where you give them something that's very special. Money can't buy, and vice versa, they give you something. It's like 2 people making love. What's better than that?
You mentioned Sam Cooke. He, you know, in everything I've ever read or interviews you've done in the past, Sam obviously was a really big part of your life. I mean,
Yeah.
and that happened here in Cleveland, right? The Soul
Right,
Stirrers came
right.
through here?
The Soul Stirrers would come to a big church called the Temple Baptist Church.
Right.
And we were trying to get discovered, so my father walks up and talked to the older guys in the group about letting his boys come on and open up the show.
Right.
And so they were telling him, them guys too young, man. Let them come back a couple of years from now.
Yeah.
I didn't know Sam had that much power, but he had just got with the group. He said, no, they're going to sing tonight. You know, and he said they could be out doing a lot of wrong. And so he joked with me and said, hey, man, I'm going to let you sing, but go easy on me. You know, and I'm naive, and I'll think about it, you know. And that started, the relationship started.
Yeah.
So from there on, seeing him prosper, and the thing that I liked about him is the way he carried himself. And I always felt that the only thing that's missing in the music business is once people make it, they forget where they come from. And when you can lift people's spirit, that's a blessing. And when you can crush people's spirit, it's the worst feeling in the world when a person comes up and says, I just want to say, I love your music, and the guy say, I don't want to talk, get away from me, you know. And I said, hey, as long as I live, I will spread the love and the respect that I owe you guys, because without you guys, it wouldn't be no me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I wanted to play a little music for you tonight, too, so we could talk about you as a guitarist, as a singer, as a songwriter. But I want to start with something really early. Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray. Yeah. And I want to play a little bit of that. You recorded it in Chicago when Sam Cooke brought you out there. And a gospel tune you wrote with your brothers. So let's listen. Couldn't Hear Nobody Pray.
Okay.
Oh, Father, I couldn't hear nobody praying.
You're
I
singing
couldn't
lead.
hear nobody praying.
Something changed real quick.
That's right.
Way down yonder in the valley by myself, and I couldn't hear nobody pray. I couldn't hear nobody pray.
Now, you started singing right over the top of it, Looking for a Love,
Yeah,
which is
because
one
that's
of the
what
first songs the Valentinos had there.
Yeah, I remember
recorded.
Sam saying, I'm going to put this record out, but if it don't sell,
Yeah.
you know, he knew it wasn't going to sell because gospel was real small then, but he said, if it don't sell, then you got to give me a commercial song that, you know, a pop record. You know?
Yeah.
And so the only thing we did was just change the lyrics and kept the track and,
Right.
and the melody. It didn't sell, and before I knew it, there we were.
Yeah. Did you, when Sam brought you out to Chicago to record that, like you said, he said, try singing gospel first. Did you guys do that to appease your father? Or was that something you thought, well, we'll give it a try?
Well, no, we did it because it pleases us. It was very sacred. It was very good. Wasn't no, and the family was together.
Right.
You know, and that changed after. You know, things started to change once we started to be successful.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard position to be in when you got a lot of negative around you. It's because they think you got more than you got, or you're going somewhere, and they make sure you don't get there. You know. So I don't know. I just, as I look back on it, I wonder how many people really remember the Valentinos. I said, oh, these people wasn't even born. I said, they hearing a story, and this is a true story, you know.
Well, I think a lot of people particularly end up remembering the Valentinos for sure, Bob, because you guys recorded It's All Over Now in 1964, and just about a month after you guys put that record out, a little group called the Rolling Stones covered it.
Yeah, and that introduced them to the world,
Yeah.
you know.
It was the first UK #1 hit, one of their first big hits here in the United States.
No, they were just in Chicago checking out what was going on here in America, because all of the music was like they were gods, you know, and they copied, all European groups copied the sound of black music,
Yeah.
soul music, you know. And I can understand why, but I said, you can't copy soul music. You got to find and trust your soul. Because music is all about feeling. And if it don't make you feel good, it ain't worth nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know. And they learned a lot, and I've been chasing them ever since, trying to get another song.
I had once read that you said you were a little upset when you realized they covered it and had a big hit with it.
Yeah, I was
but
very
when you
upset.
realized you had the publishing on the song, it
Yeah.
didn't seem so bad anymore, right?
You know, Sam had the publishing on the
Sam
song.
did.
He was smart. And at that time, I didn't know about publishing and none of that. I didn't even know about writing songs that you get paid,
Yeah.
you know. And so I was saying, why don't they get their own song? This is our break, you know.
Yeah.
And I was raising Sats, you know, I was raising King about them recording our song. Until that royalty check came in. When that royalty check came in, I said, man, this is what I'm going to do forever.
Yeah.
So I've been writing about everybody until I ran out of stories.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, so it really taught you something, that writing was not only something you could do, but that was a profitable part of the music industry. Was
Yeah,
right.
and being free,
Did the mic go out?
being free with the, let's see, it's somewhere here, is it? I felt it when it dropped.
Yeah. Mine says it's still on. Sally, we all right? Okay. Just give it a second, Mr. Womack. He's resetting the mixing board there. Well, I'll tell you what,
I
Sally.
remember the OJs and Edwin Starr
Yeah.
and a few hit makers that was around breaking Cleveland open.
Oh, there we go. Is it coming back? Yeah?
Testing
Okay.
1, 2, 3, okay.
Did you have a lot of interaction with stuff here in Cleveland? You mentioned the OJs and groups out here, or there were some, you know, we honored earlier in the month the Bodie recording service here in Cleveland. Did you have much interaction with those?
We tried to outsing each other. It was competition, you know.
You and the OJs?
And the OJs, Edwin Starr, and a couple other groups was happening. But Cleveland was not the place for recording at that time. It was Motown.
Yeah.
You know, that was before Philly International came
Right,
out.
right.
So everything starts somewhere, you know, and the music will never go out of style. I would listen to the news if they sang with a melody, you know.
I want to talk to you for a minute about yourself as a player, as a musician, as a guitar player particularly, because I know you've mentioned a lot, your style's kind of unique. You play left-handed, but you didn't restring the guitar, so really the strings are kind of upside down. And when I looked to see who you called your influence on guitar playing, you mentioned a piano player, Floyd Kramer.
Floyd Kramer, yeah.
So now you're playing the guitar left-handed, upside down,
Floyd
copying
Kramer
a
way.
piano player.
Yeah.
So talk about that. What is that sound?
I don't know. It's just that every time we would leave town on the weekend to go perform, the voltage was not strong. So after we turned the corner, country and western came on. So we couldn't get rid of it, and I said, man, let me just listen at this. And listening at that, I found that they have the same problems that black musicians have. The lyrics, the blacks can sing their lyric and vice versa. You know, so I started really listening to, and he was a favorite of mine, Floyd Kramer.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find a style because you had, to me, the most important thing that people don't realize is that every artist during the day, back in the day, had their own style. Nobody sounded like nobody.
Yeah, right.
Now everybody sound alike. You think everybody went to McDonald's. You know, but I'm saying it's good too. But I'm saying you got to learn from something, and if you have nothing to learn from, you don't grow. You know, and so I look at all of the acts that some of them are still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and should have long been there because they gave a lot. And they wasn't doing it to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They was just doing it because that was a blessing that they received from God.
Yeah.
You know, and they really believe that. You know. So you know, it's going to get better. And I've seen a lot of changes. You know, I was just saying the other day when I went on to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I said to Sam Cooke, which I know he was listening, I say, tell James Brown, Marvin Gaye, all of them guys, we got a black president. You know, I said, I know that's going to blow him away. You know, because he had said many years ago, he had called me one night and
Sam?
said, I want you to hear, Sam. And he said, I want you to hear this song, man. He said, I just did the song. He said, I was trying to get you. I couldn't find you. And the song was Change Gonna Come. And his exact words is, what do you think of it? Then I said, the song feels like death. I said, it gets your attention. I said, it will never die. So he said, well, I'll never release it. Just joking like that. He said, it's never coming out. And sure enough, I turn around and say, a change has come 50 years later. So it's better for it to happen than to never.
Right.
You know, we got a long way to go, but we'll get there. Just be patient.
Yep.
Keep listening to some soul music.
That helps, right?
Yeah, it would do you a lot of good.
Yeah. So you've got this kind of unique guitar playing style. Other than your own music, I wanted to just mention, I'm just going to kind of list off a bunch of the people who you played sessions for, because there were a lot of times where you just played guitar on sessions for other people. Mm-hmm. Sam Cooke, the Box Tops, Wilson Pickett, Elvis, Janis Joplin, Sly and the Family Stone, Ray Charles, Aretha Franklin, Dusty Springfield, and the list goes on.
And I'd have to say Curtis Mayfield impressed me unbelievably. Not only was he a great writer, as soon as he played his guitar, you knew who it was. That same thing about having identity, you know. You can't beat that because that'll never die. Mm-hmm. You know, you will before it will, and the music will live on.
Do you think playing with all those different artists and being part of kind of session bands at American studios in Memphis or playing in Nashville and different places, were you trying to hone your sound then and learn something new when you were playing all these sessions?
No, I just loved to play.
Yeah.
If I saw a session going down, I would slip in there, you know, and be sitting with a chair. You know, I remember I did that at a Dean Martin session.
Yeah, I saw that in your
And
book.
I saw all these white guys sitting up there, and they were saying, where did you get him from? You know, because I'm playing all of these blues, licks, and lines, you know, that didn't fit in.
Yeah.
You know, and they told me to find out I wasn't even in the union. They said, you know, don't ever do that, man. You know, this is a Dean Martin session.
Right.
And I didn't care. I was on the session, you know. But
And
at the same time,
you said Earl Palmer
grow.
was leading that session,
Yeah, Earl
right?
Palmer was there, and he kept telling me, don't panic, it's okay. Because he knew I wasn't supposed to be there.
Right. They didn't
That was
invite you.
during
You
the
walked
days
into
that to
session.
see Earl Palmer was seeing the world change. You know, it was like that, you know. It's unbelievable, because when I think back, I said, I was 16 when we used to play the South. And whites would come in first and be seated. Blacks would come in, and they'd be seated. And Sam hit a song like You Send Me, the blacks would jump up and cheer, and the dogs would come out of nowhere. I mean, you know, just going crazy. So one day he says, I can't do this. Turn around, sing to this, turn around, sing to this. He said, they're going to either have to join together. I'm not doing it no more. And he had people like James Brown, Jackie Wilson, that joined him. And he said, these young guys that's opened up and got one record, he said, they're going to be afraid to go any other way. And they forced that issue. And that's why we're here today. But a lot of that stuff I noticed, I said, they never even talk about that. It's always somebody else that did something great, which is not the truth. They just took the idea.
I want to stick with that. You mentioned for a minute touring through the South. I mean, you played the Chitlin circuit. You opened up for James Brown for a while, you and your brothers, as the Valentinos.
We opened up, the first time we opened up for James Brown was at the Apollo Theater.
That's a pretty big gig opening for
Yeah, that
James
was
at the
a
Apollo.
big gig, and you did like 4 to 5 shows a night, and you did 4 shows. It started in the afternoon all the way down to the night. And so Sam said, later, I put you with James Brown because James Brown was hard on you if you wasn't doing it right. He said, where do you guys come from? Y'all don't take bows. You always got to go and do it for the encore. And he was on our case all the time. But when we came out, we were marching like soldiers.
James got you in
Yeah,
shape.
because he would always stand out there and watch us perform. And I hated it because he would give us a lecture every time we came on.
Is that right?
And Sam was saying, he said, I know the group too well. I can't be hard on them like that. But we had this long hair, and James Brown saying, what are y'all, a bunch of sissies? What is that? What is this? What are you doing this? If you wasn't paying attention, if he had a stick, I remember he took a drumstick and he cracked me across the head with it. Oh, man, that really made me go on.
You weren't even in his band. You were just opening the show.
And so I hated it. But to kind of call Sam, he wasn't answering the phone because he knew James was giving him hell.
Oh, man.
And I watch him change and just become a real humble, nice guy, you know. And so I said, man, thank God we learned from that. And you learn from people like Jimi Hendrix was always saying he got to find his corner because the black audience didn't understand a guy that would sing, play the guitar one minute, next minute, set his guitar on fire. I said, what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
You know, they just wasn't into it. And it was one of the Stones or one of the Who that said, man, if you come to England, they'll love you to death.
Huh.
You at home.
Yeah, right.
You know, and that's what was great. It's nobody sound like him. And as years go by, he becomes more distinguished, you know. And I remember me and him and Curtis Mayfield waiting on the show to start. Everybody had somebody they played for. I played for Sam. And he was playing for a guy named Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George, yeah.
Yeah, and Gorgeous George was the kind of guy, I don't know, if there was an idiot singer, George was one. He could make his own clothes. He would get out and sing Sam's Darling, you send me, and the people be throwing rocks and everything, and he would not stop. And I said, what is wrong with him? So he had a problem with his guitar player, Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
Which Jimi Hendrix would be, women would be screaming. George thought they were screaming for him. You know, and he looked behind, and Jimi Hendrix would be on the floor making love to the guitar, and then set it afire. So he told him, say, if you ever do that again, you're trying to steal my gig. If you ever do that again, you're fired. You know. And I remember the story he told me. He said, 10 years later, I'm walking down Broadway, and I see this guy walking down Broadway, and he had a lot of people around him. And he said, I tried to run across the street to get away from him because I've been treating him so bad. Mm-hmm. He said, Jimmy sent to his security guards to tell him to come here. And so I said, man, you taught me so much. And he said, I just want to thank you. And he said, wrote him a check for $3,000 and said, if you need any more money, I'm staying right here at the Warwick. So he was saying, what do you think I taught him? I said, not to ever be you. You know, and George is still living right now.
Yeah, he actually was
Matter
here.
of fact, we get ready to go play
ago.
Atlanta, and he's playing there. But it's a strange thing sometimes. You're on the stage and you're performing. You see all of those people walking around, and they like grade your report card, what kind of show you did that night. You know, you talk about Johnny Taylor, he'd show up. Yep. One night, Marvin would show up. The next night, James Brown would be there looking evil as he wanted to be, you know. And so I said, man, I know these people think I'm crazy. I said, either I'm seeing it or I'm dreaming it, you know. But other than that, when I look back on it all, I said the trip was well worth it, you know. It was well worth it. It's because changes happen. And it took a long time. And there was a lot of Martin Luther Kings before Martin Luther King got recognized that people never talk about, you know. And so one thing I always wanted to stress is that I love rap music when you're saying something constructive. But at the same time, I say, let a kid be a kid. I said, if a kid can't say his ABCs and he can tell you every word you said, I say, say something, because everybody can't be a rapper. You got the thing that I miss most is I dropped out of school, but I miss being educated to know. You can be ever so creative, but you get taken advantage of so much until it's just, I was one of the guys that had never broke my spirit, because I always had another song in the can.
Yeah.
But I said today to the younger generation come up, man, you can be an attorney, you can be an accountant, you can be anything you want to be, but don't try to be the rapper. Because there's only a few people that make it,
Right.
And I think music has always been something that will enlighten people. You don't know. I often think, I wonder how many people sitting in this audience should be in jail. Just did something crazy. I said, you want to think that way, because at that time you're performing and you're enlightening them. That's a better way. I don't know if they all take the advice, but you stand in a certain position and say things that people will listen to you. And it's one thing for them to listen because you said it. It's another thing for you to live it because you said it.
Since we don't have a lot of time, I wanted to talk to you about a few of your songs. Maybe we can even listen to one or two and get some of your thoughts on writing, songwriting, and kind of putting the recordings together. Let's start out with, from 1971, That's the Way I Feel About You. Can I play a little bit of that and we can listen to it first, and then maybe we can talk about it. And Sally, I think that's number 7.
Since it's taking so long.
Yeah.
Since it's taking long.
Up there it is. Okay.
You know, life is funny when you look at it. Everybody wants love, but everybody's afraid of love. You know, I'm a true believer that if you get anything out of life, you got to put up with the toils and strife. Now listen. You're pushing my love.
So that's a country and western guitar player.
A little bit too
Yeah,
far. I don't
That
think
kind
you
of way of playing guitar,
know,
yeah.
you know how blessed you are. And your friend Annie Mae tell you all she see. Have you ever thought she was trying to get close to me? Yeah.
There was a guy
Think it over.
at the airport. His name was John Grisby. I'll never forget. And every time I would leave going to somewhere to play a gig, he was always, I don't know why he picked me. He was always telling about the problems he was having with his wife. And, and that was okay, but I said, John, I'm going to miss my flight, man. No, I got you covered. I got you covered. Yeah, you know what she did? She gave me warm milk to put me to sleep, but she didn't want to be bothered. So it was always something John was talking about, and I seen it coming. I said, I'm going to go to another airline. So I can't handle him no more. So he was talking about his wife, and so I don't know, I was so mad at that time. I said, John, why don't you just leave the bitch? Leave her. He said, bitch. He said, Bobby, she's no bitch. That's my wife. So I said, well, why don't you just leave us? Because I'm you running me crazy. I'm the worst person to take advice from on a woman, And he said, that's the way I feel about her. And when he said that, I went straight to the airlines, got on the flight, and wrote that song.
Wow.
So when I came back, I went in the studio and recorded it. And I said, John, I want you to bring your wife by for dinner. I just want you to hear something. And I never forget playing that song, which had speakers all around the walls, and he was listening. And I looked, and they both were crying, you know. So he says, man, I swear to God, if I didn't know, he said, I could swear that you was listening to my conversation. I said, you talk to me about it every night for the past 3 or 4 years. What am I supposed to do? So I said, if it wasn't you, I never wrote this song. What did I say that for? A week later, his attorney called. I'm not kidding. His attorney called and says, John says that he had a lot to do with that song you got out. That's what I feel about you. And I said, yeah, he helped. He inspired the idea. And I learned from there, don't never tell nobody. If you got an idea, just keep your mouth shut. Go home and write it.
And John still has co-writing credit on that song.
Yeah,
now,
he still
right?
got co-written. I don't know where John Grisby is, if he's still alive,
Yeah.
you know, because it's amazing. You know, life is short, death is sure. You know. And a lot of people that I often say, damn, thinking about it, say, I can't believe Wilson Pickett is not here. I can't believe Johnny Taylor. And these people have sung gospel but all the way up. You know, so when you miss that, a lot of times you feel alone. And I say, I don't have to drive for it as I used to have, because I know more people dead than I do people living. You know, I say, you know, this music has changed tremendously. But I'm going to get on fire tonight.
Yeah. We're ready for that.
Yeah, I promise you.
Let me ask you about another song from 1972, Across 110th Street, which you wrote and worked for United Artists to do a soundtrack for the film Across 110th Street. And in the movie, that song's about New York City, but when I hear it, it sounds like it's about you in Cleveland, no?
It was about me in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I could write about that because I said that was a ghetto. I thought everybody lived like that, you know. So it's easy for me to write, and I was always complaining to the company. I said, why do y'all go off and get Quincy Jones with another label? And I'm not taking nothing with me, but I said, I could write. I could do a score.
So you went to them and asked to do something,
Yeah,
right?
I told them, I said, do a score. And I know they didn't tell for me to do it because I was going on a mini tour, which was 2 weeks, and they said, you got to have the whole album finished. And then we'll see, make a decision then.
All right.
So not only did I have the whole album finished, I brought it back to them and Across 110th Street, because that's what the movie was really about. Which I said, man, I could write that with my eyes closed. You know, that's life, you know. So when I think about it, we were doing sound check today, I said, damn, this is where this whole seed planted, and this is where it started from, you know. So there's been a lot of good things. It's almost impossible to cram it all in to a few minutes and people will get the full drift of it, you know, because it took a lot of years for that to happen. And a lot of things I forget. If I had a brother sitting here today, he would say, no, you know what happened? You started that song like, it's always something different. I can't remember everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying.
Is that something that comes easy to you? You mentioned, like, that's the way I feel about you wrote quickly. But then you also just said having to try and take this story, having to take your experiences. Because I know you talk a lot about your songs are written about you and what you've
Well, it's
done,
easy
right?
to tell the truth, and it's hard to tell a lie because you got to cover it every time.
Yeah,
and
right.
every time you go at it different, you know. So when I would see things happen, you know, like It's All Over Now, that song was originally, the idea came from my uncle, my father's baby brother. And he had a wife named Betty Jo, and Betty Jo was fine. I mean, she really was fine. And he would go to church every day. And Betty Jo just wanted to say, I'm sick of the church, I'm sick of Jesus, I'm sick of all of this. She said, I'm going to be a Jezebel. I didn't know what a Jezebel was. I said, it's got to be something horrible. So every weekend, he'd be sitting up talking. waiting on her to come in, and she wouldn't come. And we were telling him, Uncle Wes, whatever you do, when she call your name, do not go in that room. Because when you go in that room, man, I said, you end up in 2 seconds unpacking her bags, and everything is back to normal. So he said, well, no, this not going to happen this weekend. She gone. She going in the street. She's out of here. And she go, I said, here she come. She come walking up the steps. And I'm thinking about it now. I say, boy, this is a beautiful woman right here. She run anybody crazy. So she would go in the room, and then she would knock on the door and say, Wes, come here. Before she said, come here, he was already in the room. You know. So I wrote this song about what I used to love her, but it's all over now. I said, when is it going to be completely over? You know. And he was saying, how did you get that idea? I said, listen to you lie every week about Betty Joe. You know.
Right.
Anyway, ideas, some of them stick, some of them don't.
Yeah.
You know, I got a lot of songs that I never got a chance to record, or you had problems with companies trying to take the publishing, trying to take this. I mean, we went through a lot coming up.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So I think you have to be very dedicated in that whatever you do, you got to believe in it, because you'll be tested every day. And nobody believes a winner until you become a winner. Then you got everybody on your side.
We're almost out of time. The last thing I wanted to ask you about is, how did it feel for you? You mentioned a few times already, you know, there's a lot of great folks you knew who hopefully one day will be inducted here in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but how did it feel for you to get inducted, and not only to get inducted, to have that happen here in Cleveland?
Well, to be honest with you, at least 20 years ago, they were trying to get the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. But they had nobody there because the OJs were from Canton.
Right.
And they had nobody there but me. And I think it was Aretha and Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Sent them a letter saying, I think it's a shame that y'all don't induct Bobby Womack. He's done everything, you know. And and they didn't even have the building up yet.
Right.
And we were singing, me and Little Richard and somebody else was singing and had all the people out there. And so when it came to the aftermath, and I asked them, what about me going to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? They say, well, you need to talk to somebody in New York. We can't help you. So I forgot about it. 20 years went by, and when they said, inducted me, it was like, I want to be inducted, but for what I do. I said, I brought some great memories and wrote some great songs and did a lot of great things that if anybody should be in there, I should be in there. How you going to overlook me, and it's in Cleveland?
Yep. That's right.
You know? So it's just a great feeling for me is to, I remember coming through the airport, and there was many different nationalities there asking me about my songs. And I say, you guys knew about me then? And they said, we weren't allowed to listen to your music. We listened to it in the closet and stuff like that. So you're always learning, you know. And it's so much that I could tell the younger generation, but it's that, for one thing, they've gotten there. They've achieved, you know. If it wasn't for a lot of the older acts, there would never be a Michael Jackson.
Right.
You know, and he was a great artist, but he learned from them. And times change. You know. And so if you believe in what you're doing, whatever it is, don't let nobody tell you what you can't do or what you can. Because it didn't work for them, don't mean it won't work for you.
I think that is a perfect place to stop. Ladies and gentlemen, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Mr. Bobby Womack.
Thank you so much.